Hello friends, welcome back. UFC 309 is upon us basically this weekend on Saturday in downtown, in my hometown, New York City, at the Garden, the mecca of fight sports. 309 is taking place. I think it's actually a pretty juicy card, I'm not going to lie. You'll hear a lot of hate about this card. I think it's really because of the main event, because of Jon Jones. I really don't think that the card is weak at all, in fact, especially the prelims. The prelims are actually... It's the onion prelim. Was there anything else that I wanted to say about this card before we move on? I don't think so. So without further ado, we will just get into it with the first bout. Veronica Hardy versus Eduarda Moura. Eduarda Moura is actually pretty good. Veronica Hardy, though, showed insane improvements in her last fight, granted. I have to now kind of look at that through a different lens, as Veronica Hardy showed her skills against Jamie Lyn Horth. If you saw Jamie Lyn Horth fight 2 weeks ago, she got smoked relatively by Ivana Petrovic. Not smoked necessarily, but she decisively lost to Ivana Petrovic, just got awarded a robbery decision. It was a really brutal robbery, actually. However, Eduarda Moura also kind of, in that same vein actually, a victim of an arguable robbery herself against Diniz D. Gomes. And I think that Eduarda Moura is actually deceptively skilled, possibly should have won that fight, but Veronica Hardy, I think the striking is going to decide this matchup here. I think Veronica Hardy's a competent enough grappler and can stop the takedowns of Eduarda Moura should she decide to go for them, because we saw Eduarda Moura does struggle a little bit with the takedowns. You know, the ground game might be valid, but the takedown part is not. You know, the wrestling part is a little bit questionable. I do think Veronica Hardy, like I said, will have the better hand, so I think that'll lead her to a decision victory. I don't really see anyone getting finished in this fight, and if it does, I think it would probably be by submission. Someone either gets hurt by strikes or ends up just in a super awkward compromised position. Moving on to a fight that's actually pretty crack, off rip. Oban Elliot versus Bassil Hafez. Bassil Hafez broke onto the scene despite losing his debut fight because he took it against a monster in Jack Della Maddalena and actually made it close. Some people think that he should have won that fight, actually. We're not really going to talk about that one. That happened a while ago. Oban Elliot, on the other hand, didn't necessarily struggle versus Val Woodburn, but he didn't beat Val Woodburn as decisively as many of us, including myself, would have liked to see. You know, for something that you want to see from a younger prospect. Like, it's real rough with that. However, his second win, his most recent win against Preston Parsons, is a decent win. Preston Parsons is not a just dog shit bum fighter. I actually rate that one a tiny, tiny bit. And Bassil Hafez, you know, it's they're like, when you compare the two, really, there's just a difference in the level of competition that they've faced. Granted, Jack Della Maddalena, very, very skilled. That's a crazy fight to take, win or lose, but still, I'm going to go with Oban Elliot here. I think as long as Oban Elliot doesn't get, like, smothered and overwhelmed by the physicality of Bassil Hafez, this should be his fight by decision, very calmly. Might even pick up a sub, might even pick up a TKO. Possibly, I doubt it, though. Bassil Hafez is pretty well-conditioned, pretty strong, can get out of a lot of positions. It does look like they've weaned him off the roids slightly, though, so maybe he comes out looking a little deflated. Moving on, Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj. This fight is, again, spooky hours, not for the right reasons. This one is actually, in my opinion, one of the weaker fights on the card. I don't think it's going to be a dog shit fight, though. I think the matchup itself is good. It'll lead to a good fight. Ramiz Brahimaj has really struggled to show us a lot. My son's fighting out of the Bronx, but just that Bronx... the Bronx style just doesn't translate. You know, you could see it in a dude like Shane Burgos, also Bronx native, but it's just different, and I don't want to just chat on that. Gall is a dude that, in most circumstances now, if you see his name in the UFC, you're not going to pick him. This fight, though, it might be a little different. Just a little different. I think that really there's just a difference in competition, again, between these two fighters. One dude has been taking tougher fights, that being Gall. So despite losing him, It makes sense. It does make sense. It makes sense. It's not like unbelievable. Ramiz Brahimaj, on the other hand, is winning fights against absolute no-name cans, and he's also losing to not really good dudes. So that's what makes it really tough here. I am going with Mickey Gall, though. I actually switched up my pick. I was going to back Ramiz Brahimaj kind of emotionally just on the Bronx shit, but fuck that. We're going with Mickey Gall by decision. We're going with Mickey Gall by decision, if not by second-round submission. Moving on, Marcin Tybura versus Jhonata Diniz. I guess this is one where I'm going a little bit against the grain here. I see a lot of people going with Diniz. I'm going with Marcin Tybura. I don't know. I mean, I think that people are believing that Diniz is going to brutally knock out Marcin Tybura. Something to also note is the gloves are going to be the old gloves. They're not going to be the new UFC gloves that we've seen. They're going to be the old UFC gloves. Maybe that will play a difference. Maybe there'll be some extra finishes. I really don't personally buy into that stuff, even though I know, maybe statistically, I'm not even going to say I know, I feel like there have been less knockouts, you know? But I also think that it's a bunch of other reasons. That's like low-key a video in and of itself that we could get into or talk about it on the live stream, but I digress. Marcin Tybura, I think, when all is said and done, on paper and in the cage, is a better fighter. A way more well-rounded fighter than Jhonata Diniz. And again, we're talking about, like, levels of competition here. Who the fuck has Jhonata Diniz fought? And who the fuck has Marcin Tybura fought? Marcin Tybura has actually had real tough fights, win or lose. And sometimes he's won them. That's the thing. Win or lose. I'm going with Marcin Tybura here. I think that he'll win by decision. But honestly, if a finish does come and it's not like a very quick, explosive, decisive, brutal KO for Jhonata Diniz, I could see Marcin Tybura winning this one by sub. I could see him pummeling Diniz and eventually getting a TKO or landing a big shot and getting a KO. I honestly think Marcin Tybura is just the better fighter here, and I don't even think he's the favorite, actually, which is kind of crazy. But I actually don't have the odds listed right now. But Marcin Tybura officially by decision, that is the pick. Moving on. I actually have a lot of decisions early on, but either way, the Mickey Gall pickup is also by decision. Moving on, Roberto Romero versus David Onama. Roberto Romero stepping up from the regional scene to keep this fight alive. Unfortunately, I don't think that he is going to like the outcome of this one, because I think David Onama is going to brutally fucking finish him, brutally knock him out in round one, if not round two. And it's spooky. There's only a tiny bit that I actually saw from Roberto Romero. From what I saw, he's actually not like the worst fighter at all. He's just super green, and his style of being wild, being real aggressive, being willing to take shots and trade shots to land his own shots. It's just, I don't know if that's going to work. That doesn't work forever. It really doesn't work forever. It works until it doesn't. Against a dude like David Onama, where if you get clipped hard right off rip, it's really going to be spooky hours for you. You don't want to be doing that. You don't want to just be coming forward and getting hit. Unfortunately, I think that's what's going to happen to Roberto Romero. So I'm going with David Onama round 1 KO TKO. Or round 2. Maybe he'll surprise us. I doubt it, though. And moving on to, honestly, a spooky fight to pick, but it might be a banger when we watch. Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. I want to lean towards Jim Miller here. Despite the ass whooping that he got by Bobby Green. He was on a bit of a tear before that. I know, again, we're talking about like levels of competition here. Who are the guys that he was smoking? That's very true. On the other side of that coin, though, Damon Jackson has some like real sus wins himself. The Alexander Hernandez, or sus losses, excuse me. The Alexander Hernandez win I thought was a lot closer. I thought actually that maybe Hernandez maybe eked that one out. I might be completely wrong on that though as well. It's tough, man. It's tough. Damon Jackson is not bad at all. I think Jim Miller maybe has more finishing potential right now. He's just shown to be a bit more of the lethal fighters. But again, the caveat to that is against who? Against who? Like, who is getting finished here? Who is getting finished in these fights? Damon Jackson is actually the favorite. Damon Jackson is also younger. But they've probably faced the same amount of mileage, roughly. That's the thing. It's I want to pick Jim Miller. I want to pick Jim Miller by... Am I going to say decision or round 2 submission here? I'm going to go with Jim Miller by decision. I might be wrong on that one. I'm not too confident on that one. Damon Jackson could win this fight. He could eke out the decision, just do marginally better, stop takedowns, land a few more strikes, circle around. Like, he might eke it out, but we'll just have to see. Jim Miller by decision, the official pick. Moving on to the old man's bout. Chris Weidman versus Eryk Anders. Eryk, your boy, Anders. Man, despite shitting on Eryk Anders for most of his career and kind of all the negative attention that he garners from his fighting prowess, Eryk Anders has grown on me somewhat. You know, I respect the man for stepping in, for testing himself, taking on tougher fights, and actually occasionally winning them type shit. It's rough. Here, I'm actually going to go with Eryk Anders. I think that Chris Weidman, despite the Bruno Silva performance, is done. I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry. I don't know what more you want me to say. Eryk Anders might be close to the end, but being close to the end and being done are 2 different things. Like, they really are. Especially early on in round 1, who's going to be more dangerous? And if it gets out of round 1, who's probably going to sustain? Like, I think Eryk Anders will. Here's the thing, though. I could see this fight being stopped early. I could see this fight going to a decision. I'm going to say Eryk Anders by decision. But he might win by finish. But Eryk Anders by decision is the pick. Moving on to what I believe is actually quite possibly the hardest fight on the card to pick. And also one of the spookiest, being Johnathan Martinez versus Marcus, the maniac, McGee. Get terrified. You should be shaking in your boots, chills down your spine, goosebumps, the whole 9. Because Johnathan Martinez is probably, not even probably, we're going to save the probably, but Johnathan Martinez is the more experienced fighter, and he has been fighting a much higher level of competition consistently in the UFC. He is a UFC veteran. Marcus McGee is still relatively green. Like, he's been finishing his fights, you know, so the time hasn't gone down, even though that's good. But also against the dudes that it's been, like, his opponents, the best opponent that Marcus McGee fought is arguably Gaston Bolaños. If you don't agree with that, then you would say it's Journey Newsom. And then he smoked the legendary, the powerful JP Bays. But in the middle of those, here's the thing, though. You can see when Marcus McGee fights, there is something to him. He has that thing. The man looks like he's 50. But he fights like how he looks, and how he looks lives up to the nickname. He fights like a fucking maniac. The guy fights like a composed maniac, man. He throws heavy power into his shots. He just rebukes. He shoves people off who try to take him down. He can pressure well. Hasn't really been completely tested in terms of cardio and gas tank, but I don't think that's going to be any kind of problem, you know. Has very good training partners at, I think MMA Labs where he trains. Johnathan Martinez is really fucking good, though, and a loss to Aldo is not, like, bad. That's not like a blemish on your career, so to speak. That's good experience. Just think about that. You know, you come off losing a decision loss to Aldo, and then you fight Marcus McGee. That's kind of good. That would build you up for this fight. This is a really fucking hard one for me. Johnathan Martinez might be the more technical striker. But there's something about Marcus McGee and his entire skill set, combined with his physicality, combined with his kind of like killer instinct, his finishing instinct, his lethality. Like, Marcus McGee does look to actively finish fights. And even if it seems like he's not pressing the action to the maximum, the finishes come. He still finds the finishes. This is a real rough one. I think if Marcus McGee wins here, this will be a gigantic win. Rightfully so, because it's a gigantic step up in competition, man. So, I'm seeing now that Marcus McGee is the favorite. I disagree with him being the favorite. I think that this should be pick'em or he should be underdog, but we're going with Marcus McGee. We're going with Marcus McGee by... Oh, God. Does Marcus McGee finish Johnathan Martinez? Has Johnathan Martinez even been finished? Or been knocked out? I don't think so, actually. He could hand him his first KO loss if that's true. Odds are. I'm going to say it goes to decision. I said that I felt a lot of decisions on this card. I do think there will be some finishes that we are getting to, but I do think there will be a fair amount of decisions. So we will go Marcus McGee by decision. Moving on to a fight that I'm fucking super excited for. Following Marcus McGee and Johnathan Martinez. Crack rock fight coming up. Possible fight of the night. Mauricio Ruffy versus Llontop. Holy shit, get scared, man. Now, do not be fooled into thinking that Llontop is some kind of bum that they scraped off of the streets of Peru. Fuck no, man. The dude has had an extremely tough schedule in the UFC. I'm not going to lie, I picked him to beat Chris Taco Padilla as soon as he came on the scene. Chris Taco Padilla did his thing, got that rear naked choke. That is what it is. His next fight against fucking Slava Claus. It was a war. They went to fucking war. Back and forth war. It was real rough. I felt for my man. I picked Slava Claus to win that fight. Slava Claus did win that fight. But they went to absolute war, man. And you should really hold that fight. That's what you should judge Llontop off of. Is the war between him and fucking Slava Claus. Now, Mauricio Ruffy, absolutely terrifying because when I saw him versus Jamie Malarkey, I was like, this dude looks like a Brazilian Conor McGregor. And then he started fighting like Conor McGregor, and I was like, oh shit. And I mean, it was kind of like really bizarre how many of Conor's like fight mannerisms he seemed to like mimic or imitate. Like, I'm not sure how to explain that really, but it was very Conor-esque. It was so Conor-esque that it was fucking bizarre. He got a spectacular finish. And for Llontop, man, as a reward for losing two fights, not even a reward, but after losing two fights, the UFC gives Llontop a fucking dude who is, like, on paper way scarier than the previous two dudes that he fought. Like, it's real rough. It's real rough. Llontop, I do think the UFC is kind of angling for this. The UFC, I think, is angling for a real war here. I think they know that Llontop, if given the chance, if he survives, like, big blows, he can put on a show. He can put in some work. He might even win a decision. Here's the thing. Llontop gets hit a lot. He has a chin, but he does get hit a lot. That is going to be a problem against a dude like Mauricio Ruffy. You can't just let him hit you. It doesn't work like that. It really does not work like that. Mauricio Ruffy is going to have a small, slight height advantage, and reach advantage. It's just... Actually, scratch the height advantage. He does have a reach advantage. But I want to pick Llontop so bad with all of my heart, my fucking Peruvian brother, man. But... And this is like there's something about this. This is like a trap. Like, this is on Tapology, obviously. But plus 525 for Llontop is crazy work. Crazy work. Mauricio Ruffy is very skilled, though. Like, I want Llontop to win. I want Llontop to prove me and a lot of other people wrong. I have to go with Mauricio Ruffy, though, here, unfortunately. I really want to pick Llontop, but I'm sorry, man. Win this fight, and then I'll champion you. For real. But Mauricio Ruffy, I think, is actually going to find a finish himself. I think he's going to win this fight by KO TKO. in the later rounds. I'm going to say round 3. I do think that Llontop will be able to survive, maybe even have his own moments due to his chin and his offense, actually. But I think he's going to get hit too much. I think Llontop's just going to get cracked way too much. James Llontop is who I'm talking about if you're confused, but it's Llontop. We move on. Karine Silva versus Viviane Araújo. Oh, boy. I don't know why I'm saying, oh, boy, here. This one isn't really a tough pick. You just have to go with Karine Silva because she is the young, up-and-coming prospect, and she has actually played the part. She's played the part. She hasn't shit the bed. She hasn't thrown fights completely and been like, what the fuck have you been doing for the past couple years? Karine Silva is her. She's pretty brolic, pretty fast, very young, very skilled in striking and decent enough in grappling. I do think that she will win by decision. She might even get a head kick finish. Who knows if we're lucky. Moving on. Bo Nickel versus Paul Craig. This is like a deceptively sacrificial matchup, in my opinion, unfortunately for Paul Craig. I don't want to shit on Paul Craig. Paul Craig has had some crazy wins, but more often than not, he has crazy losses. I do think that they're setting Bo Nickel up for a win by finish here. I think this fight, stylistically, is really tailored for Bo Nickel. The kind of grappling and wrestling that Bo Nickel likes is the kind that's going to be, like, extra effective against a dude like Paul Craig, who might look for his guard or look for guillotines, stuff like that. And then on the feet, if Paul Craig is sleeping on Bo Nickel's power and Bo Nickel's striking, which isn't, like, world class, but it's decent enough, it might be a real problem. It might be a real problem. He could get clipped with one big shot at the beginning of the end, pounded out. There we go. So I'm going to say Bo Nickel. I might as well just say fuck it. I'm just going to go balls out with it. Bo Nickel by round 1 KO TKO. Moving on to the co-main event. Oh my god, we're almost to the end of the card. Co-main event. Charlie Olives, Charles Oliveira, du Bronx versus Michael Chandler, man. Michael Chandler's been given the runaround for the past 2 years by this man, Conor McGregor. And now, for his troubles, he will fight Charlie Olives. I'm going with Charlie Olives here. By round 2, I'll say submission this time. I think that despite probably not even probably, I'm pretty sure, Michael Chandler has been actively training basically in like the 2-year camp and is probably in crazy shape. He hasn't fought. Charlie Olives, win or lose, has fought, and he's had moments in these fights. That's what I'm kind of basing it off of, is just activity experience. Granted, the elephant in the room is these dudes fought each other, and Charlie Olives brutally finished him the first time. So I do think something like that is going to happen again. Might not get fully to the KO TKO, but might start with the hands and end with the sub. Might just be a sub that's snatched up. I'm not sure, but I do think that Charlie Olives finishes Michael Chandler again. Michael Chandler, though, we'll make a couple arguments for him. One, this is my spooky schizo take. If you look if you look at Michael Chandler's record, and you look at his performances in Madison Square Garden specifically, he is due for a win. He is just due for a win. Like, it doesn't matter who the fuck he's fighting, he's kind of due for a win. That's what scares me. Shit like that scares me because sometimes it actually goes through in the UFC, and I really don't like that, and then I start going real crazy. Numerology, astrology, all that bullshit. We're going to say fuck all that. Charlie Olives by round 2 submission. By round 2 submission. Michael Chandler will probably have his own moments in there. It might be fucking terrifying, man. But I do think that Charlie Olives is going to win. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. The main event for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. A tough fight to pick. I was going to crack a joke. I tried to crack a joke, I should say. But in all seriousness, I'm going with John Jones here. I'm actually going to go with round 2 KO TKO. Round 1 is going to feel like an eternity, and it might be over in the first round. But maybe John takes it a little slow, tries to see what the vibe is off rip. I do think that John is going to get a KO TKO here. KO/TKO here. Because, 1, again, he's kind of due for one. 2, I think that it's for the highlight. It's for the Jon Jones legacy. It's for the marketing. It's for the highlight reel. Like, and Jon has no fucking qualms about knocking out, like, an older legendary fighter. He doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't give a flying fuck. He'll brutally knock him out. He'll finish him right then and there. It doesn't matter for Jon. He'll relish in that fact. All will be right in the MMA world, according to Dana, if that were to happen. Now, it is completely within the realm of possibility that Stipe Miocic cracks the fuck out of Jon Jones, actually perfectly catches his chin and puts him out, finishes him. That would be absolutely insane. We would go crazy on the live stream. I don't think that's going to happen, though, unfortunately. Stipe, great boxer, great wrestler, but Father Time has taken his... He's taxed it. He's the tax man. He's coming through. He's taxed it. It's over. I don't want to say it's over like that, but it's over. It's over. It's over. For Jon Jones, hey, he's looming over Jon Jones' shoulder type shit. So we'll have to see. And again, I think most of the hate surrounding this card is coming from the main event. And maybe a couple of other fights as well. But pretty much the main event. Should be fun. Fights in the Garden are always legendary. What time does the event start? 6. Nice and late. Nice and late. So, hey, fuck it. We'll be here, as always, faithfully on Saturday with the Smoky Hours Fight Companion. Last week, I said it too in the recap, we had the most successful Smoky Hours Fight Companion to date. Thank you to everyone who pulled up. Thank you to all the new subscribers, fresh faces, old faces. Thank you to everyone. Big shout out to all of you. Again, we got also another little amateur fight. This man TJ, amateur fighter from Columbus, Ohio. Wish him luck in his bout. Wish him good vibes, good training, good health. Anything else that I'm missing before I let you go? I feel like I was kind of tweaked out. My mouth was running a little bit faster than my mind in this one. Hopefully it's the quick prediction video. We're almost at 100 subscribers, and then the 100 subscriber special will come. Spooky Hours will come out whenever I get around to fucking filming that, and I'm not a lazy bum. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more content. Like the video if you like the video, but dislike the video if you dislike the video. Leave a comment down below on why you disliked it, why you liked it, your picks, anything, your thoughts on my picks, just anything you want to say. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Much love. Big kiss.